Okay. All right. So waiting for the others to come in. So again, we're getting ready to do a test on cell organelles and cell transport. So look over your notes while we're waiting. It's not in Canvas, it's a quizzes. So I'll have to send you a code. So give me a minute so I don't have to send the code 5 times. Actually, let me do it this way. I can do it this way. I can share and that way. But while you're waiting for others to log in, um, you should study. Again, it's I think it's 45 questions. You only have one chance to take it. It's you can use your notes, so take your time. And as soon as I get everybody in, or more than 4 of you in, because right now only 4 of you are here. So if you want to go ahead and get logged in to joinmyquiz.com, that's where it is. But I won't start it until everybody's here. And actually, if I do that, see, the problem with putting it in the chat is people who come in later, I got to put it back in again. All right. So go ahead. I put it in the chat, so I'm going to stop sharing so that I can just see who I'm looking for. Like I said, right now only 4 of you are here. Hmm. All right, we're waiting on 5 more people to log in. Up, there's one. Okay. 2. All right, good afternoon. If you just logged in, I'm going to put a link in the chat. We are testing today on cell organelles and transport. So you should look up your notes for that. I'm going to give it another 2 minutes for people to log in, and then I'll start it because they'll be late after that. Got one more, so I'm probably just waiting on 2 more people. All right, so again, while you're waiting for it to start, find your notes on what the organelles do, all the cell parts, active transport, passive transport, osmosis, diffusion. Have those kind of notes in front of you. While you're doing that, let me do GoGuardian. So many things to launch. All right, so you are allowed to use your notes. You're not allowed to go anyplace else. So you should either be in quizzes or your notes or in Canvas or whatever, wherever you keep your notes, but those are the only places you should be. Like I said, I'm gonna give it one more minute for someone else to come in and then they're late. All right, Jada, you just came in. We're getting ready to do a test, so you should look at the link for um, quizzes is in the chat. Let's see, one person, they're still in their math class. All right, and I had this problem the last time I gave the quiz. When I start the quiz, if you're present now, you need to start taking the quiz. Now you shouldn't be in something else, and then eventually start doing, take the quiz when you feel like taking it. It helps if everybody logs in when it's ready, so that way when it's done, we can move on. Last time I had someone, I stayed 10 minutes after class and they didn't finish, and I ended the game after that. I ended it. So if you're in class, you have all class. It is, like I said, 45 questions. You have all class to do it. Please try to use your time accordingly. Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and start the quiz because everybody who is supposed to be here should be here by now. All right, Jada, log in as soon as possible. I'll send the link again. Hold on. Yeah, I just sent it to you. All right, remember you only get one shot at this. So take your time, read each question carefully. All right, so it looks like everybody's finished. So I will print the results. Oh, y'all did real good. All right, great. All righty, I will print the results and I will put that in the grade book. So let's go look at the vocabulary for the next unit. All right, so we've looked at photosynthesis, we've looked at respiration, and now we're going to look more at that equation for photosynthesis that made glucose. So now we're going to take that glucose molecule and we're going to do an amazingly thorough breakdown of what happens to when we make the energy, where there's different cycles that we need to know. So it's about to get a little deeper. Okay. So you're going to want to take notes. Lots of diagrams to draw. There's cycles to draw. All right, so let's start with what is the energy molecule. All right. So during photosynthesis, we created a molecule called glucose. And glucose is a sugar that is made up of 6 carbons, 12 hydrogens, and 6 oxygens. It is held together by chemical bonds. The energy of that molecule is stored in those chemical bonds. So we're going to look at what happens when we break those bonds, how much energy is released, and where that energy goes. Okay. All right, so you do need to know what is an ATP molecule. So you need to, right here where it says adenosine triphosphate, you need to make sure that you know that. Okay, let's back it up. Let's start with the first line, where energy is the ability to do work. And the work, what we're looking at is on a cellular level in order to carry out the functions of exocytosis and endocytosis, building proteins, digesting proteins, making reproduction. All of that requires energy. So that's the work that the cell has to do. On your level, it's blinking your eyes, writing your name on the paper, you're moving your muscles. All of that requires energy. Okay. And the energy molecule that we're going to look for is an ATP. Okay. All right. So in the organelles that let me hold on. Let me back this up. All right. So what I was saying earlier, growth and repair. In order to, if you get cut, you need to repair your cells, so that requires energy. The transport, the passive transport, active transport, getting large molecules across the cell membrane, and reproduction. So that's everything I just said earlier. I'm just going to make sure we go through all of these slides. All right, and as I said earlier, also the energy is stored in the bonds holding the phosphate molecule together. Okay, so in the picture, they're giving you the adenosine part of it is connected to a ribose sugar. And then there are 3 phosphate molecules connected to it. So every time one of those phosphate molecules breaks off, it releases energy. Okay. I thought I was still sharing. Oh, I know. I stopped sharing so that I could print your report. Okay, back to sharing. Okay, so that's where I am. And that's where everybody should be. And that's not where everybody is. I see two people there. I say, everybody, please get on this page. I guess I was sharing that too. All right. Okay, so everybody should be here. Wednesday, we'll have an activity on energy. So make sure you're paying attention. All right, so the tri part of it is saying that it's 3 phosphate molecules. So when we lose one, it becomes ADP, it becomes adenosine diphosphate. And eventually it can lose another one and it'll just be adenosine AMP. Okay. So every time it loses a phosphate molecule, not only does it release energy, but it also reduces the molecule down to ADP. And then while it's going through its cycle, it picks up another phosphate and then it can start all over again. So even this is a cycle, okay, where it gives off one and it picks up one and it keeps on doing that. All right, so I keep continuously going to the gas station. All right. In photosynthesis and respiration, this is where we're going to need to know where the ATPs are being used. Okay. So in the plant, we need to know that all the activity for photosynthesis is happening in the chloroplast, and all the activity for respiration is happening in the mitochondria. And here again, it's a cycle. Okay, we make the food goes to, oops, all right, let's do it like that. All right, so the chlorophyll are molecules within the chloroplast. So they are the enzymes. They are actually the thing that makes it look green. They collect the sunlight energy and they store it in the chemical bonds of the sugar that it makes. So that's the glucose. All right. Then during respiration, and again, we need to remember that this is happening in both plants and animals because plants make the food so that they have the energy to carry out their life functions. Like we said, growth and repair, transport and reproduction, all of that. Plants do all of that. So they need the energy to do that as well as animal cells. All right, so then we take the glucose molecule and it goes to the mitochondria where the ATP is, let me stop moving, is used to break down the glucose molecule. So again, that C6H12O6 has to be broken down and separated. So the ATP does that. All right. So mitochondria, both heterotrophs and autotrophs, meaning those are consumers and producers, those that make their own foods, plants and animals, both have mitochondria in their cells. And this is where the chemical energy is broken down. So they're going to convert the sugar into an energy form. And then you see this line, it says energy is lost. And then it breaks it down. It breaks the molecule down into carbon dioxide and water, which is what the plant uses. And so we repeat this cycle. All righty, let's look at this. All right, take a minute to work on this matching activity. All right, I'm going to start with you. All right, the source of energy for everything is the sun. During photosynthesis, the We say it makes its own food, so it stores the energy that it makes in our glucose molecule. All right, the form of chemical energy usable by the cell is ATP. Is energy cycled? Yes, it is. Remember, we said that you lose a phosphate molecule, it becomes ADP, and then it picks up a phosphate molecule, becomes ATP again. The ability to do work, that is the definition for energy. When ATP is used for energy, it becomes, oops. Oh, there it is. Couldn't find the answer. All right. The process for taking energy from the sun and converting it to glucose is, my screen just wants to move up and down. Photosynthesis, when food is broken down to release energy, it is called cellular respiration. Okay. All right, so you do need to know all of those. I might give you these same questions as a quiz on Wednesday, so make sure that you got all of those correct. Okay. Now with these, you should just continue to, so you can screenshot that so that you have all the right answers. All right, so again, before we leave and go to the next page, energy is required for all living things, keeping in mind that's plants and animals. The energy molecule that we're interested in is called adenosine triphosphate, or ATP for short. And all energy originates with the sun. All right, any questions about that? Okay, so let's look at this. Okay. All right, two things. All right, why don't you tell me two things that you got out of um, that particular video? Type it in the chat. Everybody needs to give me two things. We're going to do this as a waterfall effect. So type two things in the chat, and then I'll tell you when to send it. Don't send it right now. We'll do it as a waterfall. I don't want anybody copying your answer. All right, two things that you got from the video before I tell you what two things you were supposed to get from the video. All right, I give everybody another minute to finish typing their two things. All right, go ahead and send it. Everybody send. And the thing about the waterfall is all the answers are supposed to just pop up at once. So everybody should be sending me their answer. Thank you, Jacob. Got one. Everybody's answers should be populating. That's not a statement. That's that Kayla, that I need a complete thought. A complete thought. I don't want to know what things they saw. What thought did you get from what he said? All right. Jacob said that the rainforest is considered the Earth's lungs due to the amount of oxygen it produces. So nobody else can say that. Come on, folks, y'all were supposed to be typing in an answer, so you should have been ready to just submit when I said submit. Were you paying attention? Were you watching something else? Do I need to make this a graded discussion question? All right, thank you, Kendall. That's a good answer. All right, I asked for two. If I can just get one from everybody. All right, so Kendall is good. Jacob is good. I need everybody else to give me one complete thought. So I need Jada, I need Nikila, I need Andrea, LaCoria, and uh, Kayla again. Because Kayla, yours wasn't a complete thought. It was just two statements. I don't know what that means. So take one of those and explain it to me. Okay. Thank you, Kendall. Folks, y'all got to pay attention. You don't know when I'm going to ask you. The question was, what two things did you get from here watching the video? And you can't say two things that somebody else has already said. All right, let me say one of the things that you should have gotten from the video. You were supposed to type them in the chat. So Kendall, you're good. You did what you were supposed to do. Jacob, you're good. You did what you were supposed to do. The rest of y'all still owe me something. Okay, Kayla, I'll take that. The visualization was showing how the Earth has changed over the last 20 years. Changed how? What specifically, what changes were they specifically looking at? And now that I put that question out, anybody else can answer that question. Kayla said that the computer visualization showed us changes on the Earth for the last 20 years. What changes were they showing us? It wasn't just general change. What changes were they looking at? You can't blame it all on that. They were looking at the atmosphere. Thank you, Kayla. Even though you spelled it wrong. I got you. All right, specifically, okay, folks, y'all need the rest of y'all need to pay attention because this is what you were supposed to get out of this. He was looking at the atmosphere, the amount of carbon dioxide and oxygen that is in the atmosphere. They specifically looked at what was going on at the Amazon. We're looking at photosynthesis and respiration in the plant. That's what they were showing you. So they showed you that the plants were taking up the carbon dioxide And they showed you how what the planet looked like when there was in the nighttime there was a lot of carbon dioxide, and in the daytime there was a lot of oxygen, because this is what happens. This is what we call, we're going to later on, we're going to call this a light reaction, because this happens in the daytime. And then we're going to call the other one a dark reaction, because it happens in the absence of light. So, but normally we can look at this as a day reaction and a night reaction, but it's not always going to be day and night. It's going to be light and dark. Okay. All right. So in the presence of light, carbon dioxide is taken in and oxygen is released. So they were looking at the levels of carbon dioxide and oxygen. At night, or in the dark, the opposite is happening. You don't need light for respiration. So during respiration, the oxygen is used and carbon dioxide is created. Okay, so there was more carbon dioxide at night, because that's what happens in the dark reaction. So we're going to be looking at these two cycles as we go through the next section of looking at energy in plants and animals, and comparing photosynthesis and respiration to each other. All right, I'm going to show this other video, and I need everybody to pay attention, because I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to ask you to tell, and this is short. It's 1 minute long.
The importance of chloroplast. Plants and algae have one or more chloroplasts. The chloroplast is where photosynthesis takes place. Here is a diagram of the chloroplast. You can see where the stroma, granum, and thylakoid are located. The chloroplast has two membranes. The inner membrane folds into many layers. Thylakoids are disc-shaped structures that contain photosynthetic pigments. The neatly folded layers of the thylakoids that resemble stacks of pancakes or coins are called grana. The thylakoids are surrounded by a gel-like material called the stroma. The inner membrane, the chloroplast has two membranes. The inner membrane folds into many layers. Thylakoids are disc-shaped structures that contain photosynthetic.
All right, all right, that's what I wanted. I was trying to get back to the spot where they had the picture. All right, so chloroplast is something else you're going to have to be able to label and know the parts of. So you need to be aware that it is a double membrane structure. You do need to know that these green stacks are called grana. So the whole thing is called grana, and each one is a thylakoid. So you do need to know that. You need to know that the fluid surrounding this is a stroma. Okay, so you might want to do what like I just did, is do a screenshot of this picture, because it's labeled for you, and you need to know, be familiar with each of the parts of a chloroplast. Now remember, chloroplasts are only found in plant cells. So this is where photosynthesis takes place. So it is the organelle, its job, every organelle has a job. Job of this organelle is to carry out photosynthesis. Okay, so it's going to create the glucose. The glucose is going to go to the mitochondria, where its next phase of operation is the oxygen that it releases in the process is going to be released from the leaf. Okay. All right, so that's what happens there. Okay. We see the leaf, and I think we saw this in another video. The reason we see the leaf as being green is because all the other wavelengths of light are absorbed, and only green is reflected back. So that's why we see the chloroplast as being green. You need to, and this is the energy wavelengths, and it goes from microwaves all the way up to gamma rays. But that little piece in the middle is the only piece that we're concerned with, and that's visible light. So visible light is kind of in the middle of the electromagnetic spectrum. But this is all of the light that comes from the sun, all of the light energy, and it comes in different waves. And the wavelengths that we're concerned with, the only wavelengths that we can see are the ones here in the middle. We can't see the ones above it. We can't see the ones below it. Oh, that's going to be one of those. All right, so you should download the description of the diagram. And while I'm trying to open it, it's not showing on your screen. And all of that is not very much. It just says the graphic shows the spectrum as very large wavelengths to visible waves. The very large radio waves, which is what I said, start with building and AM, FM radios, and then you have the visible waves from a light bulb, and then you have the infrared and the ultraviolet, and the very small wavelengths are gamma rays. There might be small wavelengths, but they are very dangerous. They're not good for you. Okay, and wavelengths, if you see the wave pattern, so the longer the wavelength are the radio waves and infrared radiation, and those are all the things that those are used for. On the other side, the sun is ultraviolet, so notice that that's not really that's above the range of visible light. And then you have X-rays, which we also cannot see, but those wavelengths start to get smaller and smaller and more compressed. All right, y'all have studied wavelengths before. You know that a wavelength is measured from the top of the wave of one to the top of the wave of the next one. So when we talk about wavelengths, so that's something you do in physical science. It's the top from crest to crest or from trough to trough. Okay, so let's look at what this says. All right, take a few minutes to go through each of these slides, just talking about pigments and wavelengths. And what is chlorophyll? And then how they, when you send it through a spectrometer, this is what the graph would look like when you send it through. So these are all the pigments that there are in a plant. Now, where we are, the reason the leaves, this is the time of year when the leaves turn pretty colors. These are all the colors that we see when it's not green. So we start to see the orange, the yellow, the purple, the brown, and the yellowish brown during this time of year, because that's when the chlorophyll stops working and all these other ones start working. All right, so take a few minutes to read through that. I think we can get through. Nope, we're going to stop there. All right, so read through that, and then we'll start here with photosynthesis next class. So again, photosynthesis and respiration are going to cycle. So we're going to be talking about the cycles and where they take place. So please read through before you log off. And note that this is where we're going to be on Wednesday.